in though, so you don't miss out on good content. But you're welcome to follow up with me if you have a question, or if you just want to reach out, please know that you can do that. So your brain may look like these two strings right now. I feel like mine looks like that times a million because I have a lot going on that I need to get out on paper. And we're going to give y'all an opportunity to do the same thing today. So I am Abby Horton. I'm an assistant professor at the College of Nursing here at UA. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a certified health and life coach. And now I get to say a Wellbama ambassador, not former, because I'm representing the nursing college now as an ambassador. And I'm one of your wellness class educators. So you can reach out to me at abby.horton@ua.edu. And I'm happy to take questions, comments, feedback. Just if you have something you want to reach out to me for, please feel free. So we're going to talk about and explore habit change. We're going to look at SMART goals, but we're going to go a little deeper than SMART goals. We're going to talk about the importance of taking small daily action. We are now kind of calling those micro steps or micro goals and, baby steps, and then learn specific strategies to help you actually cultivate habit change. So I always love to throw this slide in most of my talks because I think so many times we get caught up in our heads about what we can control versus what we can't control. And one of the best solutions for when you feel overwhelmed and you feel like things are spiraling, has anyone felt that way this semester? I have. Is to kind of stop that with gratitude. Gratitude, it's been shown through research that if you're feeling grateful, it's hard to feel any other emotion. It's almost impossible. And so if you can go to a place of gratitude, either by listening to a meditation around gratitude, by pausing everything, stepping away from all of the fluorescent lights and the technology, getting out in nature and just kind of practicing a pause, that can be really helpful. So we don't want to just eliminate our negative thoughts and feelings because that makes us human. But our goal is to really change our response to those thoughts, right? To really normalize it. We're not going to worry about what we can't control, which is a lot right now. We've had a lot in our life, I think, in the past 5 years that have shown us that we're not in control of a lot, but we can control our attitude and our effort. There's some other things that are listed on the remote control slide, but it basically comes down to our attitude, our effort, and really kind of what we choose to engage with. And then I love a good Venn diagram. So that last slide, that things that matter and the things that you can control, where those overlap, where those meet, that's where we should focus because there's a lot of things that matter in life that we can't control. And there are a lot of things that we can control, but maybe really shouldn't, maybe really aren't important. But if we can control it and it's matters, it's important to us, that's where we should put our time, our attention, our effort, our money. That's where our focus should stay. So Mahatma Gandhi said, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words, right? Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your destiny. And I so believe that. Aristotle says we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And I also believe that to be true. So, our mindset really matters, is what we're getting at here. So, when you can develop self trust, so trust in yourself, self compassion, so you're giving yourself compassion for when you make a mistake, and then belief in yourself. It all starts with self. And we have to look at our responsibility. And so sometimes we have to coach ourselves or parent ourselves. We all have an inner child that needs a parent, right? And sometimes, we can get that support externally through coaching, through counseling, through friendships, through colleagues, through our actual parents if we're blessed to have them and have good relationships with them. But the most important person that can really parent and coach us is ourselves. And so responsibility is broken down into our ability to respond. So our response and our ability to actually take action around something that's important to us. So some things that help create a more positive mindset. Some of us are naturally more positive than others. My mother, for example, came with a healthy dose of positivity. I always joked when I was a child, I would say that I had a mom like that was just Pollyanna in embodiment. She was always happy. She always could look on the bright side of things. I tell her all the time, "You've got your rose-colored glasses on." And she laughs and gets a big kick out of that, but it's so true. And for a long time, I thought that I was like kind of negative. I was like, man, I'm just not that positive. I don't wake up that naturally that positive. I have other gifts that are more, I feel like, in alignment with the things that I do. But I realized that, positivity and those kinds of thoughts, it's a spectrum, right? And some of us are more kind of leaning toward positive. Some of us are more geared toward like problem solving. So they're going to see their problems because they want to go after them and fix them. That's kind of more my mindset. And then some of us, because of a lot of things, are, how we're hardwired, our life experiences may tend to be a little bit more negative leaning. And it's all okay. It makes us human. It is the spectrum of human emotions. But we have to really parent ourselves and say, okay, where on the spectrum do I want to land? It's great to be able to have those kind of things to build on and those skill sets to kind of lean toward, right? We need all people with all different perspectives. But when you do get kind of in this stuck place of, I'm feeling really negative all the time, or maybe I'm being overly positive and I'm kind of numbing out to the reality of the situation, kind of bringing it back toward the middle and seeing, okay, like where can I make some compromise on that? And where do I need to kind of, make some changes with that, right? So, gratitude practice is hugely important. Writing down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for, saying 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for, picking one thing that you're grateful for, just a little micro habit. Journaling and reflection. So, I'm going to have some prompts that I share with you at the end where you can really think about, okay, what do I want my life to look like in the next 6 weeks, in the next 90 days? Mindful moments. So that could be listening to music. It doesn't have to be meditation. It doesn't have to be yoga poses. It doesn't have to be the things that we typically think of. It can be riding with your car window down on, on your way to work and listening to music. That's what I did this morning. My mindful moment when my day got off track this morning. I was like, you know what? If I throw a headband on my head, I don't have to worry that this window being down is going to have my hair all over my head. So I'm going to put a headband on, my sunglasses, and crank my radio up a little too loud. And that is going to be my meditation for today. And I did it, and it totally worked. Highly recommend. Meditation, it could be the Fit On app, which is a favorite of mine that Miranda shared with me. It can be that you actually go for a walk, a 22-minute walk outside under the trees, getting some sunshine with somebody that you like is the best way to build connection. You're moving your body, you're having mindfulness. After 22 minutes, your cortisol will lower, which is that stress hormone. And then you're getting the connection with having a friend. That's why I say go with someone that you like, that you want to talk to. I have a mindfulness walk scheduled for tonight, actually, with one of my friends. We call them our walk and talks, and we do them once a week. And we just figure out, okay, which night at 7 o'clock can we meet and we can go walk with our weighted vest on. That's our new fun thing to do. Sunshine in nature, and especially if you can be near water. So, like walking out by the river is a really good one with all of the other components I just told you. And then get to know yourself in this season of life. We all go through different seasons of life, and what you needed last year may not be what you need this year, is almost certainly not what you're going to need next year. And that's okay. That means that you're growing and that you're not staying stuck. And that's a good thing. So I always like to recommend some reading, and these are the two best ones that I can recommend for anything around habit change. So James Clear's Atomic Habits, which he loosely based off Charles Duhigg's work on the power of habit. So both of those are really good reads. I will tell you, Atomic Habits is a really thick book. It's not one you're going to just kind of binge read, but it's a great one. So, the power of habit. People recognize intuitively how much of their lives are habits. That's what Charles Duhigg told New York Times. And the thing is that most of our life we can let get into this automation and into this cycle of just doing it because we've always done it, right? How many times do we say, "Why do you do that?" Well, I've just always done it that way. So, a Duke University study found that 40 to 45% of people's daily actions are habits or unconscious decisions. And I would say it's likely probably higher than that. But I think about half of what we do probably is just purely out of habit. We've always done it this way. So, positive habit change is the foundation for health and wellness and setting goals and anything that you want to do in your life. You'll never rise above the level of the habits and the systems that you have in place. And habit change is really necessary to achieve your goals and to meet your milestones. A lot of times we don't know what it is that we want. I have been joking as I approached my 40th birthday. Looking at what I want life to look like. And I've been telling my friends and a lot of my colleagues, I have a blueprint that I put together around 2004, 2006. Over those 2 years, I put together a blueprint of what I wanted my life to look like. And I would update it from time to time. But I realized that by December of 2026, so next December, I realized that my blueprint kind of runs out. Like I don't have a blueprint past December 2026. And for a planner like me, that's really hard. It's exciting because it means there's just so many opportunities for me, but also it means that I have to get to work on that if I want to make sure I'm not living in autopilot by January of 2027. And so having goals, having things on the horizon to look forward to, they're so, so helpful to making sure that you have a destination, right? You have to always put in your end location in your GPS before you can figure out how you're going to get there. And so that's what habit change, that's what goal setting, that's what blueprinting your life really looks like. So habit change is based on discipline, not motivation. Motivation is going to come and go. It's going to look different in different seasons of life. It's going to look different, in different days of the week. I was highly motivated over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and even Friday. I got so much accomplished personally and professionally. And by Monday, I was already tired because I had done so much over the weekend. I didn't allow myself to kind of rest and recover. And so by yesterday, I was really running on fumes by yesterday afternoon. And so when I got home, I was like, okay, I need to clock out. That's my nursing lingo with my kids of like, unless you have something really urgent, I really need to clock out tonight. And let's push anything that you need, like homework help, whatever you need. Let's push anything that can wait until tomorrow when I feel more human. And that was a great tactic for me. I know that doesn't work in every season of life for people, but it is something that you can kind of use as a go-to if you feel like you need a timeout. And sometimes we do have to parent ourselves and just put ourselves in timeout. And I'm telling you, if I had not put myself in timeout last night, my family would have because I was just like, nothing is working. None of the things on my plan is actually working today. So I pouted and put myself in timeout and I felt much better. And I woke up today feeling 100% myself and so much better. But sometimes we do have to just let ourselves be in a bad mood or let ourselves be tired, and that's okay. We're not robots and we shouldn't have to be. But your motivation is going to come and go. And so realizing that discipline is just you're showing up every day, right? It's things like in the exercise world, you eat the elephant first thing in the morning, right? Or you eat, the elephant one bite at a time and you eat the frog first thing in the morning. Those are some of the, kind of little things that you say to kind of like mantras to get you in the habit of that. Want to work out first thing because then you can't get delayed, right? If you wait until after work, you're probably not going to be as likely to do it. You might, but you might not be. If you set a goal and you have an accountability buddy, you're more likely to accomplish it. If you write that goal down, you're even more likely to accomplish it. So there's lots of little strategies you can do because otherwise our brain uses about 25% of our calorie or caloric intake a day. And so our brain is always looking for ways to make life easier. That's why when you get in your car and you are on your way home and you're driving, you will sometimes panic when you get home to go into the house and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't even remember driving home. It's because your brain is like, oh, I've done this before. It can scan your environment for danger, for things to look out for, while kind of putting you in this automated mode because it knows the way home. That's sometimes why you'll end up in a drive-through that you didn't mean to go to if you're always going to a certain drive-through and you're like on your way home and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm in this drive-through and I didn't even consciously think about it. It's just a habit. So if you can build that kind of discipline for your good habits, your healthy habits, then you're more likely to crowd out the habits that aren't so good. So the power of habit change is really that you have a cue, that you pair it with a routine, that you add a reward, and then it becomes a habit. And this is the habit loop. So the habit loop is set off by a cue. It's the trigger that tells your brain to go into automatic mode. So it might be cranking the car. And then you have a routine, right? You put your seatbelt on, you crank the radio up, you get your playlist ready to go, you roll down the window if you're me. You kind of do all of that. You may let loved ones know that you're on your way home, whatever that is. And so that's your routine. And then the reward can be anything you want it to be, right? The reward might be the music. The reward might be hitting your favorite drive-through. The reward might be, that you take the scenic route home. Any of that works, but that creates the habit loop that makes you want to do that thing over and over. And when you get into the car and you start doing those first little motions, then your brain just kind of takes over for you and you don't have to even think about it. That's great when you build really healthy habits. That can be hard when you don't have really healthy habits in place because it makes hitting the drive through really easy. It makes, picking the not great food choice really easy. It makes going home and sitting on our couches really easy instead of going to the gym. So the routine is that physical, mental, or emotional behavior. And the more emotion you tie to the routine, the more likely you're going to do it. So you've got the cue, and your brain is like, oh, I know what we're doing here. We're driving home. We're going to hit the drive through. We're going to go sit on the couch. I'm excited, right? So you do the routine. You have a lot of happy emotions around that. You get some good dopamine hits. And then your reward is maybe it's the sugar from your drink, from the snack that you get. Maybe it's the kind of positive stimulus that you get from seeing something that you enjoy on TV. And then at the root of it, there's a craving. And the craving is usually like a release. The craving is a break. The craving is food, is calories, right? That's why food can be so addictive, especially sugary food, high calorie food. So at the center of this, there's a craving that's being driven. And usually it's that your body needs something, and our brains give us the quickest, easiest way to get there. And that's the power of the habit loop. So here are some common habit loops. There's a YouTube video that you guys can watch, but these are some common ones. So our blood sugar gets low around 3 o'clock. That's usually when our cortisol levels are going to start to kind of start doing a trend, right? Like you'll ramp up a little bit in your cortisol, and then you're going to start to ramp down because you're getting ready for nighttime. And so a lot of times pairing that with an after lunch drop in your blood sugar means your energy crashes. I'm 2 doors down from the vending machine, and around 3 o'clock is when I hear the clunking of the machine because that's where everyone's going to get their little snack or their treat. And so your blood sugar goes down, your energy drops, you feel overwhelmed by that because your body is trying to get you to pay attention to it. And then it's easy to go into your break room or to the vending machine and get a donut or a cookie or something sweet or some coffee. And then the reward is that your blood sugar does go back up, which our body loves that temporarily. And you get some caffeine, so you feel more awake, right? You get that boost. And then you got a break, so you stepped away from Outlook dinging in the background. And then now you're starting to feel like, oh, okay, this is better. So what you could do is you have this cue in the energy drop. Maybe you get coffee, and then the reward is the caffeine, and then you're stuck in that loop. There's also an article here by Modern Flourish, and it talks about kind of the addiction of the habits that we have. So a healthier loop would be we're feeling overwhelmed, maybe we're tired, maybe we're hungry. We go stretch, we go chat with a coworker, we go take a break. Now, what I'll say about going and chatting with a coworker is that every time we interrupt someone at work, it takes about 22 to 24 minutes for them to get back on track, to get back on task. I found that to be very true for myself. And the more that we get interrupted, the more likely we're going to interrupt other people. So I would say just be really mindful of that because a lot of times it can spiral. And I'm definitely a talker. So you will find me in the hallway or in friends' offices. But I always have to make sure it's okay. So usually I'll send a text message and say, hey, can I come chat really quick? And if it's not a good time, they'll tell me. And so that really helps not interrupt and not really kind of squash the productivity for the day. But chatting is good. It's fun. It's a good way to release some stress and to make good friends, right? helps build community. So habit stacking is another good thing to do. It's after blank, I will blank. So when I go and get coffee, I will also get water. So that is my habit. When I drink coffee in the morning, I will not drink my coffee usually until I've had some water. And I don't fix my coffee without having water. So I always have 2 cups. I have a coffee and I have a water. Usually I have 3 cups, but I always at least have two, and it provides me with the reward, right? I get the psychological boost of I really enjoy coffee. I've made that a part of my personality. And I also get the caffeine, a little bit of the sugar, and then some healthy fat because I make it keto like coffee. So I use the really thick creamer instead of milk. And so I'm getting some good, like fat in there. I sometimes will add butter. It just gives a little bit of a boost in the morning, and then pair that with protein and you feel amazing. It helps really get you going for the day. Another one is after brushing my teeth, I will take my supplements. So that's going to make you feel healthy, and feeling healthy is what we want the reward to be, right? We don't want the reward to be sugar. We want it to be that you're actually creating good habits that last. So some more habit stack examples. When I turn on the shower, it takes forever for the water to warm up. You could do some squats. You could do any kind of like little stretching exercise. When I wake up, I will journal a gratitude list. That's a really good one to do. After I get in my car, I'm going to meditate for a few minutes. So before I turn on my amazing playlist, I can sit there and do a meditation really quick. When I did clinical, especially when I did clinicals with students in a hospital setting where I was going to be really needing to be on my game and taking care of my patients and taking care of my students, I would do a meditation before I would go in, and my students would see me in the parking lot and they would say, "Were you napping in your car?" And I would say, "No, I was closing my eyes for my meditation." It's more effective that way. If you're not seeing a parking lot, you can, go to your happy place, which for me is the beach, and you can do your meditation and it helps reset you. I was like, no, was not napping. I was just getting my game face on for the day. When I drink coffee, I'm going to refill my water bottle. When I, go into work, I'm going to take the stairs. It's been shown that if you take the stairs, buy the stairs on just a little, printer paper, that more people are likely to take the stairs than the elevator. So in our building, the elevator and taking the stairs take you about the same amount of time. Certainly not the same level of energy, but maybe that's a little experiment that you try. Post a sign that says take the stairs and see if more people are doing that. That's a really great exercise. And taking them down versus taking them up work different muscles. And so that's a really good thing to do. When I sit down for lunch or dinner, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. That's why a lot of people will actually, in very, different, diverse faith traditions, will have a prayer before their meal. It's not just that they're having a prayer of like gratitude and thanksgiving, but it also helps them to do the deep breaths. And so, even before we had research to back up that actually helps with your rest and digest, getting you into parasympathetic mode, and helping you actually absorb the food that you're taking. Spiritual faith traditions were doing that kind of intuitively, knew that about the human body. And so whether you pray, whether you do a Thanksgiving, a gratitude before your meals, if you just at least take 3 deep breaths and do a cycle of that, that will help with your digestion, because we're really not what we eat, we're what we absorb. And so you can eat really healthy foods. And healthy is, I'm saying that is a relative term, right? Because what's healthy for one person is not for another. If you have diverticulitis, broccoli is really healthy. It's a cruciferous vegetable, but it's not healthy for that person. They can't eat that. So food is not inherently good or bad. It's what works for you. But if you're eating that broccoli and you're not absorbing the nutrients from that broccoli, or you have like steamed or boiled all of the nutrients out of that broccoli, which is how I prefer my broccoli, then, with some cheese on top, then that's really, you're not absorbing probably all of the nutrients that you need, or your body may not have the ability to absorb all the nutrients that you need. And so you have to really kind of think about it in that way. So James Clear says all big things come from small beginnings. So baby stepping your way really is the technique. He also talks about the power of tiny gains. So 1% better every day versus 1% worse every day, and what that looks like over a year. So you'll hear people, especially in the health space and the influencer space, say 1% better. That's what they're talking about. Is just how can I be 1% better than I was yesterday? And yesterday was a rough day. So like yeah, I didn't have to do much today to be 1% better. But it's not about 1% better than your neighbor or your spouse or, a friend. It's 1% better than you did yesterday. So really working to not compare yourselves. One thing that I will say is in that longevity study that Harvard did that I always reference, it's my go-to reference, is that connection is the biggest positive indicator that you're going to live a long, healthy lifespan. And your health span is going to be really good. The years that you're healthy and happy, because the last 10 years usually aren't so healthy and happy for most Americans, statistically speaking. But that you're happy, that you're healthy, that you're fulfilled, that you live a long life is that you have good community and connections. So I've started this initiative of doing like a 50-person bingo card to see if I have 50 connections, because that is an indicator. If you have 50 people that you could reach out to for a coffee or ask a question or go to lunch with them, that then you have a healthy network of 50 people that dramatically improves your health span over your life. So I started that this summer as part of my 40 before 40. Really, really cool. Let me know if y'all want my bingo card. I made it on Canva. It's kind of cute. And made that fun, right? But the other part that we don't often talk about is that the biggest kind of negative indicator that you're not going to have a healthy, happy, long life is that you compare yourself to others. And so if you're comparing yourself to others, you're actually, looking at negatively impacting or influencing your health span, your lifespan, your happiness. And I think we probably know that to be true. But I love that research showed that. And this was over like a 70-year longitudinal study of these folks. So really, really good research to back this up. So identifying your triggers. If you know what triggers your stress, for me, it's notifications. So I have silenced almost all notifications on all of my devices except the very essential ones. Spend some time tracking what triggers you, when you get triggered, where you get triggered, who is involved. Usually, there's a handful of people that will just get to us a little bit more than others. Just because of personalities or just different experiences with that person. But track all of that. Where are you? Who are you with? How are you feeling before you even get triggered? What are the details of that? And when you know that, then you can start actually counteracting it, right? So is it a certain time of day? Are you already feeling stressed? Are you probably sleep deprived? That's a lot of the problem for most of us. And too much sugar, too much caffeine, and we're sleep deprived. That is a recipe for feeling overwhelmed. And we all do it. My hand is raised. Are other people involved? Usually. And then does it happen right before or after something else? Probably. So knowing that can help you actually make some changes. So some 7 steps to actually cultivate habit change. There are a million, but if you write down what you want to actually change, you list the reason why. So knowing your why. If you ask yourself why 5 times, usually you get to the actual reason that you want to do something. So you're like, I want to lose weight. That's always a fun one. Okay, why? Well, because I want to fit into this dress. Well, why? Well, because I have an event in November and I want to look nice. Okay, well, why? Well, because when I go to that event, I want to feel good and I want to, feel like my best and I want to be able to blah, blah, blah. And why? Well, because this connection is really important to me, blah, blah, blah. So by the time you go down the layers of whys, you get to the real reason why. The more that you can make your goal be something really substantial, like, I don't want to get fit and healthy to look cute in an outfit, or to fit in, my old, like golf pants or something. But I want to look and feel healthy because I want to be able to play with my future grandkids. That's a really good reason why. That's kind of tying it into your values, most likely, rather than it just being about aesthetics. You're more likely to be healthy and to do the things you need to do to be healthy if you've tied it to a future goal that has a lot of good value based, like I want to be able to get in the floor with my grandkids when I have grandkids in the future, that's going to be more motivating to me than I want to look cute in the pair of jeans I used to wear in high school. Also very motivating, but not as probably impactful because you're tying that emotion to it. So identifying your obstacles and challenges, like what are those? Usually I'm my biggest challenge. It's getting me in the right headspace, but maybe there are some logistical things, like maybe you have young kids, or maybe you don't have tennis shoes to go walk in the afternoon, or maybe you work a rotating schedule, and so you've got to figure out some of those kinds of things. Draft a plan and include solutions for how you're going to kind of counteract that challenge, right? Maybe it's that you don't have workout shoes. Okay, so you're going to go to that event on the quad with Miranda and all of the Wellbema crew, and you're going to go figure out the best shoes for your feet, and then you're going to get some tennis shoes, and you're writing that down as your habit that you're going to start. You're going to start the walk, and these are the steps you're going to take. Seek accountability. This is a great group to get accountability. The Move Spring app is a great group to join, a walking group or a group that's doing, a fun activity in Move Spring. And then follow the plan. So often we make the plan and we don't actually follow the plan. Like I've asked students over the 14, 15 years that I've been teaching, well, did you add that to your calendar? And they say, yes, ma'am. And I said, well, how often do you look at your calendar? And they're like, well, I sometimes forget to look at my calendar at all, or I look on the day that the project is due and I don't like build in triggers in my calendar to like know that, hey, next week I've got a due date, so I really need to be working on that this week. And we do the same thing. So make the plan, pencil the plan in, follow the plan, and then actually track and evaluate your progress. And you can maintain your motivation by just developing the good habits and the discipline. Motivation comes after action. So I was sitting at home for a very long time waiting to be motivated. And what I decided is I've got to change who I think I am first. So I've got to say that I'm someone who works out. So before I ever became someone that works out, I said I am fit. I am a runner. I am a weightlifter. And I started saying that when I was in, class 2, almost class 3 morbid obesity, and I was sitting on my couch and I was struggling with my health in a really serious way, and I couldn't figure out, like, how am I going to do this? I don't even feel like getting off my couch. How am I going to do what I say I'm going to do? So I would just say, I'm a runner. I'm a weightlifter. I work out. I'm healthy. And none of those things were actually true, but I had to believe that it was possible before I could do the thing. And then I got the tennis shoes. And then I got the workout wear. It was years before I even put traditional workout wear on. I would just wear a baggy t-shirt and shorts, which is fun. It worked. And I started doing those little micro, steps, those little baby steps to actually start to make the progress. And then the motivation came after I took action. And it took a really long time. It took me 8 years to reach my goal. But I didn't give up because I knew it was possible because I had told myself it was possible. And you see a lot of transformations. We're talking about health and weight loss today, but this could be anything. This could be work goals. This could just be personal growth. The thing is that you see all of these radical transformations that happen in a year, and you don't realize that like there was probably a lot of work they didn't show on Instagram or Pinterest or wherever or TikTok. They just see like that 1 year where the transformation really took place. They don't see the other years that it took to get them there. On average, most people attempt 11 or 12 times before they stop smoking cigarettes. Very true of all of this other stuff as well. There's a lot of research around that. So if you don't hear anything else I say, motivation comes after you take action, not before. You just have to decide to do the thing, and that's discipline. So setting your intention, I will be the best version of myself by my next birthday. When I set my very first intention, that was my intention. And I left it here because the thing is how are you going to measure that? What does that even mean? Like the best version of myself. That sounds really great as an inspirational post on social media, but in reality, it doesn't actually get you somewhere. So our intention creates our reality. So you need to have really, really specific, measurable things that you can put on an intention. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. I would go to ChatGPT and just say, "This is my goal. Help me write an intention for this." And you can have it in about 30 seconds. You're not even having to really think through it. I think it's good to contemplate, okay, do I like what ChatGPT came up with, for me? Or you could use Copilot, or you could use, any of these other Gemini, but use something to help you get started. It's a great way to kind of like use a cheat code, right? Use your resources. Gretchen Rubin also has a book called The Four Tendencies. She's got a ton of free things on her website about how you figure out what kind of tendencies you have around goals and habits. So people who can meet inner expectations without having a lot of external accountability probably don't need an accountability partner. But the people who have trouble meeting inner and outer expectations, they're going to need an accountability buddy. I work best when I have someone that I'm accountable to. I always recommend that you get someone outside of your household, though. You don't want to create family discord over a spouse or partner saying, "Hey, didn't you say you were going to walk today?" You don't want that energy in your life. So get a best friend, get a buddy on Move Spring. Have someone else that you don't live with telling you that. Personal advice from that one. There's also a couple of studies that show that 66 days actually is what's needed to form a habit. It's not 21. 21 is to get you started. You can stop thinking about it so intently, but 66 really is where you start to actually form the new habit, and 90 days is about when you start to really form your new identity around your habit. So 3 months. And then some things to avoid. So you've got to control your environment. If you want to read more, put a book on your pillow so you read at night. If you want to work out in the morning, put your workout clothes where you kind of have to trip over them. Don't actually trip over them, but put them in a chair where you have to at least see them. If you wanted to, make changes, you've just got to pick one thing to change. Like, don't try to change everything in your life. There are 11 to 12 wellness domains. They keep adding more and more. It used to be 9. Now I've seen as many as 12 this week as I've been updating some of my information. You pick one thing in one wellness category, one domain, because it's too hard to do wholesale changes. Commit to the change. Focus on what you do every day. So this is very Coach Nick Saban of us. Like, you don't focus on the outcome. He never focused on winning the game or winning the championship. He focused on the development of the players, which he called the process. So he focused on the process, and he would say, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I think I've studied his life enough. He would say, okay, next play. So when you made a mistake, it wasn't, you're in your next play. You can't fix the last play. And so you just think, okay, what's the next thing I can do? So you're not starting over in New Year's when you mess up. You're not starting over next week when you mess up. You're not starting over tomorrow when you mess up. And you're not, starting all of the good things tomorrow. You're starting today. Whatever you want to do, you're declaring, okay, today I'm going to do the thing. And you do it. And when you maybe eat the donut in the break room, you don't say, oh, well, I'll start over next week. On a Monday, you're going to say, no, the next choice that I make is going to be a good choice. It's going to be a healthy choice, because that's how you keep from spiraling. And a lot of the wins that we have Monday through Friday, we lose them on Friday night through Sunday night. And so really monitoring what you do on the weekend is very helpful to your goals. And then assume that anything that you do toward your goal is going to help, because sometimes we assume the small changes don't really add up and don't make a difference, and they totally do. Here's a habit tracker. There are a ton of free ones online. You can even get like your AI tool, your favorite AI source, to make a habit tracker for you where you list the things and then you just make a check mark. MoveSpring is also really great about that. You are 100% capable of changing old habits that don't work for you, and reminding yourself of that is super important. Change is created by having the idea, by developing the thought around that, by adding feelings to it, like getting really excited. Like, put in the chat if you're really excited about making a change. Put a number 3 if you're really excited. Put a number 1 if you're just kind of like having the idea of it. And then 4, like, make a plan, create your habits, commit to it, right? And tell people that you're committing to it. They don't have to know the details of it. Make it a part of your lifestyle. So I'm someone who works out. That's what I have to say about myself. It becomes a part of your identity and your lifestyle. So it's harder not to do, right? If I tell everyone that I'm a runner and I never run, then like there's going to be a disconnect and my brain is going to try to make me do something about that. And then you actually do start to change, and then eventually it's who you become. You are a runner, so you don't even have to try to run. You just do that. You just are a runner. So the wisdom of atomic habits, the identity is the person that you believe you are. And a lot of us believe some really negative things about ourselves. There is $1 billion industry in fitness and in beauty, to make us feel like we're not enough, to make us feel like we need to always be working on something, to make us feel like we're not pretty enough, handsome enough, thin enough, healthy enough, all the things, right? And so we have to kind of take back our ownership and our agency around that. And then the actions that you take every day is your process. And then the goal that you want to achieve is your outcome or your deliverable. So, who do you want to be in 6 weeks from now, in 6 months from now? You get to decide, and that's really, really cool. So, successful people are simply those with successful habits. Brian Tracy is one of those kind of self help gurus. Think of him as like a quieter Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn. Those are my three favorite kind of historically, influential kind of personal development gurus, but there are a ton of them out there now. Mel Robbins, Brene Brown, Marie Forleo, Brandon Bouchard, so many people out there that you can kind of find your own influencer to inspire you. And then I just put some slides in here about goal setting, what the process is about. Essentially, you just have to know what you want to achieve. And usually you're not really after the goal itself. Sometimes you are, but it's really a feeling, right? Like fitting in, a X number pair of jeans is really not about the jeans. It's about how you feel when you get there, right? It's that you feel fit, that you feel accomplished, that you feel like you kept your promise to yourself. So most of the things we want to achieve are really about the feelings behind that. If you can create that feeling, people will call it manifestation. If you can create that feeling that you want to achieve when you are arriving at that goal, you're more likely to actually get that goal. So that's really important. And then some key aspects to goal setting, defining the goal using SMART goals. There's actually a new acronym called SMARTer goals that have some two extra letters and kind of more of a process, so you can Google that. Create the action plan, build in your motivation, your discipline, your commitment to it, track your progress, like I mentioned, overcome those obstacles, keep continually evaluating, like look in the rear view mirror a little bit more so you can see how far you have come. Take pictures, journal it, put it on social media, like whatever you have to do to stay accountable to it. And then just maintain your focus and direction, right? GPS periodically at the best part of the songs will tell us, oh, in 300 yards, you need to turn here. And you're like, I have no idea when 300 yards is. Like, I need you to tell me to turn at the Chick-fil-A. But like, it will give you those little prompts to say, okay, up ahead, you're going to do this thing. You have to build that in for yourself when you're changing your life or changing your habits or setting goals. So this is, of course, what we know to be SMART goals. You guys, I'm sure, are well versed in that. But take a look at the SMARTer goals. I think that's a really good kind of unique spin and kind of an update on that. And then know that there's different kinds of goals. You have process goals, performance goals, and outcome goals. So I've given a couple of examples of what that looks like, and used an academic example for it, but you could plug in anything here. And knowing the kind of goal that you want to meet will help you in terms of like what you actually put on paper to do. And then, of course, we know the benefit of goal setting. It's all about the journey, how you grow, how you feel accomplished at the end. And of course, if you're setting healthy goals or personal and professional goals, you're going to be in a much better place, probably financially, just in every way. So, these are really, really good reminders of the benefits when you get demotivated, which will happen. And then I always say, stay positive, celebrate your successes, check in on your goals weekly, if not daily, and then focus on those small steps and seek support. Like not just support in terms of an accountability partner, but also a mentor, a coach, a support group, depending on what your goal is. And then here's a great guide on how to actually do this. James Clear has a free newsletter that goes out every Thursday. It's a great resource as well. A podcast, he has a master class, all the things. And the best way to get started is to quit talking about it and begin doing. And Walt Disney, of course, famously said this, and he clearly knew a lot about goal setting and imagination and kind of imagineering, a future that we can't imagine, what life would be like without the influence of Disney. So here are some reflective prompts for you to take home. I call this happy homework. If it's not required, it's happy homework. So these are some things that you can think about, ask yourself about, ties into what Miranda kind of opened us up with that prompt in the chat. And we'll see if I can take, one or two questions before I head to class. But otherwise, this is one of my favorite, absolute favorite topics to teach on, because if you do this one thing, if you do what's outlined in this presentation, you literally can change your life. I changed my life by doing these steps. And, I went through a lot of tears and paid a lot of money to go back and do health and life coach certification, all these things. And it was really simple. So, getting to teach this class um it feels like a community service project, because it's like, let me tell you what you can do and make it easy for you guys, where you don't have to have the struggle and the financial investment that I put into it. That you can learn from my mistakes and from my lessons. And so that's really cool. That's why I love to teach, and it's just really an honor to get to share my stories and my experience with you guys, and I hope it helps you in a really meaningful way. Okay. That is all. I'm gonna pull up the chat if I could.